know about, but as we communicate better, and again, target the communication, we get the ideas, and then to your point, we connect them with a senior leader or a business line where it matters for them, and they're then going to take it through. Because ideas with no real, what's the value of it? Like, it's a great idea, but which of our customers are going to use it? That doesn't usually go over.
I think there's one other thing that you bring to the table that might be the magic word. I think that is money.
That is true.
And I think that's an unusual thing, right? There are lots of people who have innovation title, but not other people have a checkbook to back it up.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So I've been in Wells Fargo for a long time, and we are very, very meeting focused. You can't do anything without having a meeting. And one of the things that my boss, has been very good at over the years is he's been able to get a pool of money. And he said once, and I agree with it, we spent 15 minutes at the start of every meeting talking about who's going to fund it. And you're talking about the wrong thing, right? You ought to be talking about what are we trying to do, why are we trying to do it, what's the value of it. And so what we bring as part of the innovation group is we do have a pool of money. And when there are, so we do a couple of things with that money. Sometimes we lead projects that wouldn't go without us. And sometimes there's already a department or a line of business that has, this idea, has the infrastructure in place to do it, but they just don't have the funding. I can't do it until next year's funding. So we can accelerate that by taking some money out of our pool and saying, forget about waiting for next year, we can do that now. So that's definitely key. It's definitely key.
Right. I mean, I think that's probably the trick for any corporate initiative. If you bring the money, that gives you some clout. All right, we've talked in general about the process that, creating somewhat of a culture of innovation, getting people involved, and now you can seed them. Let's talk about specific, an example, one that you brought since you started this program.
Yeah, but I can give you a couple of different ones, but one I think that we talked about that I think is fairly interesting is, again, starting with the customer is, so we, part of our role, and many of us in this innovation group have come from kind of wholesale bankers, kind of large corporate, as opposed to the retail side. No, I've been on the retail side earlier was. And so we often are talking to customers to find out what they're looking for, and so just kind of what their pain points are. And so we were at a customer last year, maybe in September, and they were talking about the mall owner, and they were talking about the challenge they were having around Christmas time, and people waiting in line for Santa, and they had a mall app, and they wish they could kind of have a scheduler, so you wouldn't have to wait in line. Same thing for Easter time, for the Easter bunny. And so, we were there with a colleague of mine who runs the R&D, and he said, yeah, we can build that. And so we built, with no idea how we might make any money from this, and that's what's our business. We're building a scheduling, so build a scheduling app, basically build APIs to build a scheduling app. Also build a payment piece so people could schedule, I want to see Santa at this point, I want to take this package, this photo package, and then we evolved it as working with the client. We evolved it to they also wanted an image capture so that they can add your purchases to their rewards points. And so we built this all, within about 60 days, in time for them to use it for the Christmas, and then they used it for the Easter bunny recently. Now they use it again this Christmas. And what it's helped us do is help them. And we've got a lot of our customers now that we've kind of got these APIs. We can do it's kind of banking as a service. We can start to add any kind of piece where our customers can consume them anywhere. So instead of coming to Wells Fargo to consume these things, they can consume them in the mall app, for instance.
And what I loved about that is the sort of perhaps the unintended consequences, because people didn't have to stand in line, they could go out and spend more money in the mall. So
right, that's exactly what they want.
Which is right, which means that if they use their Wells Fargo card, you can actually make some money with it. And that example I also love because it sort of reminds us that we're in a give-to-get economy, and you really need to do stuff for your customers in order to keep them. And that's a really good example. Now, did you take that idea and then sort of, okay, we're now in this app business and go talk to other customers?
Yeah, I mean, so yes, we have a lot of customers now that we're doing those kinds of things for. We're still trying to figure out how to charge for them. But again, it's really about it's an added value to our customers who have been with us for a long time and a lot of other business with us. So where exactly we make money from that isn't really as critical, but it really has. We do a lot of stuff in the innovation group. We focus a lot on mobile, focus a lot on these APIs. Do a lot of stuff about biometrics. Again, it all gets back to what our customers are looking for and what we can do that's kind of cross-line of business that's really big and transformative for our company.
I think I just heard a banker say, where we make money on this doesn't matter. I think that's what I heard, which is seems like an enlightened perspective.
I've been in Wells Fargo for 25 years, and I'm embarrassed to say I actually don't know much about banking.
I see. All right. Well, but you were. So that's an interesting example. I think one of the other things that app did, a lot of people would pre-order the photos, which again, it's a nice thing to do because that's one less thing that gets them back shopping in the mall. Do you have another example that?
Well, there's some things we're doing around. There's a lot of stuff. So I particularly have an interest in the social space, and so there's different things that we're looking at. I think I started to mention. How do we use how do we use social data? I like the crowdfunding of the student loan, those kinds of things. We're also doing a lot of stuff with how do we use social. Again, not necessarily specific tools, but how do we use the social functionality for our team members? How do we do things? So we're very meaningful folks, as I said. So we're in the process of building you'll see on a team member app, where we have a lot of social capability within. It's all kind of built around your calendar, and there's a lot of social capability within that. So as you're in a meeting, people are doing other things anyway during the meeting. Why don't you just acknowledge that and give them the tools to do that in a way that actually benefits how they get some stuff done. So that's actually been pretty interesting. We've got some high hopes for it, and so it goes.
And is part of your job evangelizing innovation in the company and spreading the good word that innovation matters?
Yeah, I think what's great about Wells is there are a lot of people that are focused on innovation, whether that's their job title or not. They're thinking about it, and so I really see my job less of an evangelist. Maybe my boss does that, but more of a connector. It's really, again, it's how do we get things done? How do we kind of remove some of the roadblocks? And one of the things, when I got into the social space 5-6 years ago was how do we get everybody off the bench? I am a believer that I don't care how busy you are. If you're interested in something, you're going to find the time to do it. And so we've got all of these smart people around the organization that don't necessarily know what our key challenges or opportunities may be. And so they might know in their particular group or department, but if we can do a better job of communicating what it is we're trying to solve for, then we've got lots of people that are interested in participating.
Well, I have a million more questions, but just if there are questions from the audience, please feed them here. Oh, yes. So this was a question. We sort of touched on it a little bit, but how you collect the ideas from employees.
Yes, so we have
suggestion box, right, in the middle.
Yes,
of
exactly.
That'd be nice because people drop things in.
So we have that's one problem. We're a big company, so there's a couple of different tools. There's one tool we have, I think, called Idea Builder, where we capture those ideas. We also have an innovation kind of community of practice we get together every month. We have this innovation week. We have these hackathons. We have innovation summits. So there's lots of different places where team members can find ways to contribute. But we're also out. We're also out there visibly talking about what we're doing in innovation and getting our names out there, so that if you don't know where to go, just talk to one of us in the innovation group. And that's been over the last year. That seems very good.
I think I heard the definition of a hackathon is to get 10 programmers together to work all weekend for beer and pizza, essentially.
Well, we only go for a day.
I see. All right. So some tools. All right. Let's see. How do you avoid jumping on the next short-lived trend when it comes to a new social channel or platform? And before you answer that, so that's what gets to should we be banking on Snapchat and counting on that?
Yeah. So I don't know if that's internal or external. If it's external, we do spend a lot of time as an organization looking through what is the value of Snapchat, what is the value of Pinterest, where might we participate. So I think we're thoughtful about that. On the internal side, do I go from yammer and jive to everybody and their mother calls me about Slack, but then we have some other things as well that we have or are looking at. And my contention there is, and I work with a lot of vendors on consulting, we do some kind of proof of concept that we could show them what we want. It's not necessarily scalable, but here's what I want. What I want is, I want a place where I can plug in whatever the latest tool is. And so, today it might be Yammer, tomorrow it's going to be Slack, the next day it's going to be something else. I want a way where I can communicate. So, Drew, I want to send you a message. Right now, I don't know about you guys, when I send it, I'm going to send it to this kid. I know that if I don't send it to through text, SMS, she's not going to read it. And this one is only going to read it in email. And this one, if I send a text, but it's during these hours, it's going to get lost in there, so I can't send it to him until later than me. And so I shouldn't think that way. I should say I want to send a message to Drew, I want to send a message to Jack, I want to send a message to Mary, and they're going to get it where and when they want, right? I may put on some preference and say, look, I'm traveling, I'm speaking at a conference, I don't want to get anything right now, but I'm going to go to the airport right after this. When I get to the airport, that's when I want to get all my messages. And so we're building some things like that. Again, they're not scalable, but I share them with the vendors who work and say, this is what we want you to build something like this. And they're starting to evolve that way. And I think it's going to be a way for us. It doesn't matter what the latest is. We just want people to be able to find the people that they need, find the information they need, and communicate when they want, and not have to worry about it.
So you talked a little bit about not trying to make revenue out of necessarily every program that you do. How are you measuring success when it comes to, what's your report card?
Yeah, that's a good one. So it depends on what it is. Like in the customer one, we're starting to get a lot more requests for those APIs and that functionality. So in that kind of thing, that's easier. On some of the internal collaboration or some of the ideation around innovation, it'd be like, we had 2 hackathons this year. The first one had, I think, 30 teams, the next one had 60 teams, right? So in terms of the number of people that want to have teams, the number of people that want to get involved, we'll look at it that way. Some of the other things we're doing internally, again, it'd be the same kind of thing if we're looking at communities that we might develop internally around internal social collaboration. We'll look at some activity and stuff like that. But some of them are hard. Some of them, we all know, some of them are hard to measure. That's just cause of doing business.
There it is. And it's hard. And what's interesting to me is a lot of big brands struggle from this because they're looking for the $billion-dollar idea. And so that they end up going into the acquisition mode because the only way they can get $1 billion is by buying a company that has that. And you're talking about big and small. How are you sort of working your way through the big and small from an innovation standpoint?
Yeah, so that's one thing that I don't think we did talk about. Is we do actually have a startup accelerator that we started about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And what we're doing with that is we'll make a small investment in a startup, but it's not really, again, that's not about making money. That's about getting early access to technology that might be interesting to our customers. So one of the companies we're using is inside your eyeball for authentication, right? So we're using that. There's another one we're using which uses gesture recognition. So for instance, if somebody's signing and I'm a teller, then it recognizes their gesture and tells me what they're signing, and then I speak, and then it signs to the customer. So whenever we find technology like that we think is of value to our customers, we find an executive sponsor in the organization and say, yes, I'm going to see a need for that. I'm going to sponsor them. And generally what we're doing is these are smaller companies that what they're really looking for is how do they kind of sell into a large enterprise. So we don't want to see on the board, we want exclusivity, you can sell to everybody you want, but we're going to help them figure out how they kind of navigate the waters of a big organization, and something that gives us early access for our customers.
It's like your seed investors. I mean, you're acting, and of course it doesn't hurt that you're out there on the West Coast behaving like that. And so that's part of this, is you're this huge bank trying to act like a startup. And in some ways it feels, at least your group is bringing that mentality to it. Let's see, so this is an interesting one. So rewarding great ideas from employees when they come up, is that part of the program?
So if you're talking about cash reward, no. I think So what we do is, like for hackathons, the top, usually the top three, we'll kind of commit to actually, building those out. And again, looking for executive sponsor, and so we'll give the commitment of actually doing that, and that generally comes along with some funding. But we don't have, if you think great ideas, we can cash prize kind of thing. But as I said, I think most people that are involved in this, if they're interested, they'll find the time to do it, and that's kind of what motivates them at this point. But that's certainly a good question.
And are you thinking Internet of Things? Are we talking? I mean, and is that part of what your group is working on?
Yeah, I mean, we do Internet of Things. We work on that stuff again to the extent that we think it's of value to customers or team members. So, for instance, an Alexa or Siri kind of thing, where you walk into a building and you're looking for a team member, for instance. Wells Fargo, where's hey, Wells Fargo, where can I find Nathan? And so we look at stuff like that. We do the same thing externally. We're doing beacons, that then generate some kind of information or offer for customers. And we're doing that in the mall out, for instance. So we're looking at those things. We're also doing drones, for instance. So we're looking at drones for Wells Fargo. There's actually real good use case in our insurance business. So we're like the largest ag lender. And so if something happened to somebody, or if we need to do some kind of review of the crops, we just send the drone over, and that saves a lot of time, right? So we're doing those kinds of things, again, where they make sense.
Okay, we have another, let's see. How do you balance innovation and being proactive with simple phone line? I'm not sure what that means.
Fear of missing out.
Yeah, but what's the
How do I balance innovation with being proactive? Well, does that mean like not jumping on the latest things? Is that what you guys think that is?
I don't know. We're gonna skip that one. Do you have an online customer community? And it'd be nice to share experience with fellow customers and financiers. Do you have a customer?
Was that a question?
That's right. Do you have a customer community? I think it's.
So we do have some. We do have a couple of different customer advisory councils, but they're around different things. So there's one around. We do have multiple ones around certainly around insurance. There's one around wealth. So we have in different lines of business. We don't have a general like innovation one or general go-to community to go for kind of everything. But we do have many customer councils